My guest has spent the last 16 years building a practice on a single premise that intimacy is not a reward for being healthy or straight or simple. It's a basic human need, and the field has been wrong about who gets to have it. He's one of the few ASEX certified sex therapists, say that 5 times fast, in the country, who also trains and supervises other sex therapists. He's been on Esther Perel's podcast. He's written for Psychology Today, Cosmopolitan, Oprah Daily, and Forbes, just to name a few. He sees patients on the Upper East Side and across 6 states. He's also a trained actor and a working stand-up comedian. This is Dr. Lee Phillips, and this is Before We Cheers. Dr. Lee, how are we doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Was that okay?
That was amazing.
Okay, wonderful.
You nailed it.
I want everyone who comes here, I want to give them their flowers and make sure that I'm getting everything right.
Yeah, it was nice.
You've covered a lot of ground.
I have over the last few years. Yeah, I've been doing this work for a while, about 16 years of being a psychotherapist and 9 years being a certified sex therapist, and about a year now, a little over a year, being a certified supervisor.
So I'm just curious, when you are supervising other sex therapists, do they have any experience in the field whatsoever? Are you teaching people who, are just coming in totally cold and you're like, sex therapy 101, this is like what it's supposed to be like, this is what you should do, this is what you're not allowed to say, any of that?
Yeah, so these are sex therapists who are already licensed to practice in a state. And so they're working on their ASEC certified sex therapist certification. So they have a good background of mental health training, but they're in the process of doing the sex therapy training. So they may be at an institute doing a class or doing their coursework, which requires a lot. It's like 90 hours of core knowledge areas, 60 hours of sex therapist training. And then they have to do a 14-hour SAR, which is a sexual attitude reassessment training, where they literally go into a room and they talk about sex all day with either sex educators or sex therapists. So it's rigorous. It's a lot of work. And then they have to do supervision to get certified. They can do group supervision and individual supervision. So I supervise those folks that are becoming sex therapists. And it's really great that they're not starting from zero. They're already licensed. So they've been practicing for quite a while in their field. So it's been great being able to do that. I like mentoring and helping people get where they want to be, because I was there before. And it's a rewarding process being able to do that. I come from great teachers, so I'm just passing the torch now.
So someone had trained you as one of those therapists in the past.
Yeah. Dr. Tammy Nelson, who is the director of the Integrative Sex Therapy Institute. She's wonderful. She specializes in infidelity recovery. So she has been a great teacher, and then some other mentors along the way. So, because when I worked on my master's degree, they didn't teach you anything about human sexuality. So when I finished my master's, I was like, okay, I know the basics of mental health and using different treatment models for that, but didn't know much about sex therapy. And that fell into my lap in Washington, D.C. when I went to a Building Your Private Practice workshop. And the woman who led that, she goes, "Have you ever thought about being a sex therapist?" And I said, "No, but that sounds interesting. Maybe I'll make more money doing that."
Yeah. Turns out.
Yeah. So I'm like, let's go ahead and do that. And so I started the ASECT process for that. And I did that in Washington, D.C. the entire time when I lived there. It took about 2 years to get that certification.
Years and years of work and prep and hours locked and experience. And
that's right. That. Yeah. And working with different people, cisgender, heterosexual clients, but also LGBTQIA plus folks, and, different reasons why people come in to see a sex therapist. There's a lot of reasons why, everything from what's going on in their relationships or relationship to the physiological things that people may have an issue with, that people just can't go to ordinary therapists and talk about because they don't have training in it.
Do you feel like people think they're coming in for one thing and they actually come in for another when it comes to couples therapy versus sex therapy?
Such a great question. That's probably one of the best questions that I've been asked, because that's great.
I'm doing great, guys. We're going to keep this going.
He's doing great. Because what tends to happen is they come in for a problem, and then we unpack it like an onion, and we find out there's other things going on. So for an example, someone may have sexual performance anxiety. where they may, for an example, lose their erection during sex. And it could be because they're just anxious or there's a problem in the relationship.
Yeah.
And so we dig deeper into that, whether they're coming in as an individual or they're coming in with their partner. When I see someone for individual sex therapy, I always say, if you have a partner, if they could come in, that would be great. Because it's kind of like doing sex therapy with one arm.
Right.
So I'm trying to understand the whole relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always nice if they can bring their partner in, but it's their space. So they're not required to do that, but they may want to do that, as time goes on, bring their partner into the space.
We touched on bring your partner in and other people into the space. And you and I have spoken in the past about our shared love for, pop culture and reality TV,
Yeah.
among other things.
Yeah.
We've been seeing a trend for some time about folks on reality TV actually showing their therapy sessions, waiving that doctor-patient confidentiality to do so.
Right.
So you are literally watching their session. As a clinician and also as a fan and a watcher, how do you feel about that?
I actually like that people are brave enough to put their business out there. I think if you're signing up to be on a reality show, you're putting it out there.
Yeah.
Whatever you sign up, you sign in the contract, whether it's with Bravo or whatever platform, or it's going to be on, you're signing that contract. And, if you're going to go to therapy, I think it only enhances your storyline. It makes you more honest of who you are. So I really appreciate reality stars when they go and do something like that. I think it takes courage to be on a reality TV show. I don't think it's easy.
It's not
for a lot of people. It's not for just anyone. And a lot of people in my field have been asked and they declined. They don't want to be on a reality TV show. And me, I'm like, where do I sign on the contract?
You mean as a therapist? You mean as a therapist or like as a member of the cast?
I like to be a member of the cast.
Yeah.
But
if you were asked to be a clinician on TV for a cast member, would you be open to that?
Sure. If I'm going to be able to help give them the care that they need, because it is a real therapy session and they may continue to see me afterwards. I really think these people find the therapist and they say, hey, I'm on the show. Do you mind being on it? And I think if they're, the continuity of care, they're like, sure, I'll go ahead and go on camera and be with you and help you. So I think it depends on the client and therapist relationship too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a show I'm sure many people are aware of on Showtime called Couples Therapy. What's your take on that program?
You know what? It's actually interesting. I've never watched it.
Okay.
Because I feel like I do so much of that work. Sometimes I don't want to get off.
You don't want to bring it home.
I don't want to watch more therapy. There's also a great show called In Treatment. I mean, it's scripted.
Yes, I remember In Treatment.
Diane Wiest and Gabriel Byrne.
Yeah.
I didn't watch the second season, but I watched the first one, and he taught me everything not to do as a therapist.
Got it.
But the supervision sessions between him and Diane Wiest were amazing. The acting was brilliant. But I do think the show on Showtime is great because there are different couples that come on and they talk about several different types of issues that I see as a therapist. So I think it lets people know around the world that, hey, these people have something in common with me, that I'm a human being and I have depression or anxiety, or I've had infidelity, or we're in an open relationship. And what do we do with that? I think it normalizes a lot of things.
Yeah, it destigmatizes a lot.
It destigmatizes, it normalizes. And I think we do a lot of that work in sex therapy. When people come in and they say, I'm a sex addict. I'm like, tell me why you're a sex addict. And a lot of times they just really like sex. And a lot of times if it's affecting your responsibilities day to day, that's an issue,
right?
But if they are in their body and they love pleasure and they're able to hold their job and care for their families and their relationships, then it's okay to do a lot of those things as long as it's consensual and it's safe.
You're not hurting yourself.
And you're not hurting yourself or anyone else. It's about pleasure. And I think we have to hold space for that, because a lot of people come in with sexual shame, like I'm a bad person because I'm doing this.
I feel like shame is one of the primary reasons people seek out therapy. At least me for myself.
Yeah, because the way we're brought up, the messages that we get, you can come from a liberal family and still have shame about something. Shame is I am bad and guilt is I did something bad. And so people come in and they're like, I'm covered in this. And I always kind of, I joke about it a little bit and I say shame should have its own diagnosis because so many people have it and you have to peel back the layers of it. And one way to do that is to talk about it.
Yeah.
The antidote of shame is self-compassion. It's being able to talk about it and get it out in the open with a therapist that you trust and you have a rapport with, and that can really help. The one thing that people need to understand is that shame shows up in a lot of different ways. So some shame action behavior, someone may withdraw, someone may lash out in anger, someone may be a perfectionist that I'm not going to show people that I'm weak, that everything is good, I'm okay, and really they're hurting inside. And so they need a space to be able to talk about that.
How do you keep your patience when you're like, this person is not going to tell me what I want them to tell me in this session. They may not tell me in 3 or 5 or in a month or like how do you keep your own like sense of patience and, understanding in mind that whole time?
I think it's grounding myself.
Yeah. That's one word for it.
That's one word for it.
Yeah.
I can't stand the word relax. There's something about that word I don't like.
Okay.
Relax. Well,
fuck you.
I can't relax. I have a hard time fucking relaxing.
So what do you think people most get wrong about sex therapists and sex therapy in general? Because I'm sure that people's ideas have changed via the media, what they think they know, what's been depicted a certain way. But like in this current season in 2026, during Pride Month, mind you, like what are people misunderstanding?
It's really interesting because I think it just comes down to the fact that a lot of people don't know what it is. They hear it, sex therapy. So they may assume that you are sexual with your clients. I've actually had people ask me that, like, do you have sex with people? And I'm like, no. It is a form of psychotherapy, but it's about sex. We talk about sex and sexual issues. But I think a lot of people misunderstand what it really is. And sometimes people don't understand why people have to go. I think we live in a world where people think that sex is easy, that the media, what it portrays, that's what it is. And it's nothing like that. Porn is the worst type of sex education that someone can get because it's entertainment.
Right.
So people latch onto that and they think, well, if I watch that and I do that, then that's okay. But a lot of people don't know anything about their sexual self. They weren't taught to talk about sex. So when they come in, we help them identify certain things. For an example, sexual values. We have values of who we are. Integrity is a value. Well, sexual values are these concepts of things that you're into sexually. And they may want a place to be able to talk about that because they've never been able to unpack it. Or when they did talk about it, there was shame or rejection or something like that. So and a lot of people fear that maybe the therapist will also judge them.
Yeah.
But I think some sex therapists are some of the best therapists that don't do that because we hold this non-shaming, judgment-free place. And if your therapist does that, then you need a new therapist.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. If someone judges you, you should be able to go in and talk freely about who you are.
Completely.
Yeah.
Well, that's the only way any therapy I feel like can work.
Any therapy, whether it's for your mental health or it's for substance use or for sexual issues of concern, treat people like a human being and don't judge. And I think, we all have our biases. And I think sometimes we have to really tuck those aside, when we're seeing patients in therapy.
I mean, does anything still surprise you as a sex therapist, to this day or not? You feel like you've seen it all and nothing's
I feel
really...
like I have really seen it all.
Yeah.
I'm kink affirming. I'm LGBTQIA plus affirming. And when I say affirming, meaning that I hold a place where they can talk about how it relates to them in that being of who they are.
Yeah.
And that I may know certain terminology, but there's also more than just the mental health lens. With affirming therapy, there's the social justice lens too, working with marginalized populations. Like I work with a lot of trans people of color, and I always ask them, how do you feel about working with the white therapist? That may come up, or other types of issues. So it's really holding that space. I'm also a sex working affirming therapist. So I've seen sex workers that come in that need to be able to talk, who believe in their work and how that's changed since the whole Sesta Fosta thing that came out, where the whole sex trafficking laws came out and it got people can't promote their services or have websites. Sex workers used to be able to have websites and could advertise their services. They can't do that now.
So when you think about the idea of OnlyFans and, that promotional process, isn't that basically a replacement?
Probably, yeah. It's a way to make money.
It's not what everyone uses.
It's not what everyone uses it for. But I think, I also think that people need to make money.
I never listen. I've met like OnlyFans folks out in the wild. Like they'll just tell me, if I'm out, and I always have 1,000 questions, more so in the space of how did you get to what you're doing? I'm not going to flat out ask them like how much they're making per month, although some of them like to brag about it. But
right.
I'm not going to knock your hustle. If you've got a way of doing what you're doing and you don't feel any shame and like, again, it's not hurting you. It's not hurting anyone else.
Yeah.
Who cares? Get that coin and get out.
Yeah. And they're also on Instagram doing some of their promoting. They can't show everything, but
they have to because they can't promote.
Right.
There's no search engine, I believe, on OnlyFans. And, all of the promotion has to happen on Instagram or Twitter. But.
And so when you go to their link, their bio and Instagram will have a link to their OnlyFans page. So, I think that people want to make money, and if they enjoy doing it and if they get the attention and they have the body, all different types of bodies can do it, right? Whatever people are into. It's just not jocks and fit people, whatever helps people. I think that there's something to be said about porn and what it can do for people, but also how it can be bad.
Yeah.
So, I think we have to normalize that too.
What you said, you have had sex worker, or you still have sex workers, come into your practice. Can you tell me more about that and like what that conversation?
A lot of times, if someone who is a sex worker comes to my office, they know that I'm not going to shame them for being in sex work. So they may talk about other things related to themselves, such as their mental health. They may not even bring sex work into it, or someone who's kinky. They may not even bring up, but if they tell me, hey, I went to this party, or I did this kink scene and there was this involved, I'm going to know what that means. So for an example, if they say, I went to a munch, that's a kink happy hour where people go and they hang out with each other who are kinksters.
Sorry, what was that word?
It's called a munch.
Like
M-U-N-C-H, like a munch.
Like crunch,
yeah,
but munch.
Crunch munch.
Munch, bunch of crunch.
Yeah.
Got
it. Okay. There's these terms, kind of like being an LGBTQIA plus affirming therapist. If two gay men come in and they're like, I'm a top and I'm a bottom, I know what that means. There are people that have literally come into my office and they're like, we loved our last therapist, but they didn't know what versatile was or what a side was.
For everyone at home, can you tell them what a side is and how that,
So side was coined by my colleague, Joe Court, who's a fabulous sex therapist in the Detroit, Michigan area. And a side is a gay man who does not identify with being a top or a bottom. So they may enjoy kissing, other types of affection or touch or oral sex with other men, but they're not into anal sex.
So,
giving or receiving.
Right. So for the most part, for all intents and purposes, it's everything minus intercourse.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. Exactly. I think when you look at the apps, you kept seeing like top or bottom, versatile. And I think there was just a lot of men out there who are not into intercourse. And I think it started brewing more and more. And I know that there was a Facebook group that did start. And I want to say that Joe was a part of that. He can tell me if I'm wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened, and it got a lot of buzz, and then he coined it. And I think he has held a lot of support for those folks who go by that they know their side. So I think it's great that there's a name for it. So if you are on the apps and you're looking to hook up, you can tell people, back in the day, you couldn't put anything on an app. Now you can write a damn dissertation.
Literally. That's so true.
Now it's like whatever you want, you can put it out there.
Yeah. Thanks, LLMs. What about asexuality?
It's interesting. I think asexuality, it's on a, it is a orientation. And there's some things that fall on the asexual spectrum of things.
ACE is short for asexual.
ACE is short for asexual. And I'll be honest, I don't see a lot of asexual clients, but I do think that there are people out there who are just not into having sex, but they may masturbate or sex with themselves, but they're very affectionate and they love being with people, but they're just not into sex. It's not their thing.
So it's not that they're not sexual creatures at all.
Right.
It's just when the other person factors in.
That's right. And there's people who are also demisexual where they feel they have to have more of a connection with someone, like an emotional connection, and then they're sexually attracted to them.
It's always good to just be aware of like everything that exists. The fact that we're now living in a time where so much of this has been destigmatized, for the most part, at least in medical practices, is huge, because if it is in my experience, it's destigmatized in medicine, it's going to be destigmatized in the rest of society, because that's science.
That's science. And also, I think we have to look at geographical places. Like here in New York City, we have so many clinics for people. We have, there's so many places where people can go to get their care, but you look at the other places in the world, in the country, and it can be very hard. Like someone in like Arkansas compared to someone in New York City. So that's why we have the internet and we have these online support groups that people can join.
Something that you are an expert in that I don't see very often beyond just sex therapy is that you specialize in patients with chronic illness experience and and sex therapy surrounding their day-to-day lives and their health. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because you're the first person I've ever met who focuses on that particular demographic.
Yeah. So a lot of that, it started back in around 2014, 2015. I was working at a community mental health clinic in Williamsburg, Virginia, in the area where I'm from. And I was a geriatric therapist. So I was seeing people like 65 and up. And they were coming in with like a lot of different health issues, everything from autoimmune to, heart issues or diabetes, different things like cancer. And one of the things that they were talking about was sex. Like, I feel like I'm stabilized, I'm on medication, or I've had surgery, and now I want to be sexual and I can't talk to my doctor about that. And I was like, that's fascinating. And at that time, I was facilitating a chronic pain management group. And that was just introducing some grounding techniques, mindfulness techniques by John Kabat-Zinn, who was the father of mindfulness, and doing a lot of that. And they really enjoyed that. And it was mainly a women's group. And they started talking about dating and sex. And they were like, it's hard to date when you're chronically ill because everyone thinks you're sick all the time, or, and so when I moved,
you're othered, I guess.
Yeah, you're othered. You have a disability, so you're othered, And so when I did move to DC and I started to become a sex therapist, I combined the sex therapy and that combined. So I see a lot of people, whether they're individuals or couples, who are battling different types of diseases, to learn how to be sexual again. There's actually phases that people go through with a chronic illness. So the first one is definitely a crisis phase when they're having symptoms and they're wondering what's going on. And then once they find out maybe a diagnosis, the right doctor, sometimes people are passed around, and then when they find something that can be treatable, they start to stabilize and they integrate things into their life again, into the resolution stage after stabilization. And then after resolution, they go into integration, where they take parts of their lives that they had that they can integrate into this new normal of what's happening.
Wow. This is a whole transformation.
It's like a transformation. Absolutely. And they learn new ways to be sexual if they can no longer be sexual the way that they were prior to getting sick.
Yeah. I guess I never really thought that, at a certain age, people just assume like you'll never be sexual.
That's right. And a lot of doctors may say that, you'd be surprised how many people that have come to me.
Well, doctors used to smoke cigarettes in the office.
Right.
Too, so nobody's perfect, but we live and we learn.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's been great being able to help people and think about, what are the ways that you can introduce sex back into your life, because touch is a superpower for sex and the skin is the largest sex organ. So there's a lot that you can do. I think we got to get away from the genitals sometimes and really focus on other things.
Yeah.
And when people can understand that, because something like cancer is so scarring and it takes so much out of you. So if you can introduce one little thing to help a couple But it's hard work. I mean, it takes a lot of courage to go into that work and help people. I have a book coming out hopefully this fall, maybe at the end of the year, on sexuality and chronic illness. And it's a book for therapists, actually,
Mm.
on working for folks who are chronically ill, who are looking to reclaim their, sex in their lives and how to go about doing that. And there's a fabulous assessment chapter and an intersectionality chapter, like working with LGBTQIA folks who have disability and chronic illness, and other people. So, yeah.
I want to talk a bit about non-monogamy
Mhm.
because you talk about it a lot on your social media, and in the world of LGBTQ, plus, I think you see it more commonly and
Mhm.
it's a bit more accepted. And then in straight circles, it's still heavily shamed because it's seen as, cheating, as this and that. Can you talk a little bit about your experience, with the concept and, talking to patients about that and what you've said?
Yeah, it's interesting because you do see that. I think especially in the gay among gay men, there are a lot of couples who are open, and they're mainly open for sexual reasons. I mean, there are polyamorous gay men, but there are a lot of couples who may open up their relationship for sexual diversity purposes.
Mhm.
But there are quite a few heterosexual folks out there who are also very open. You often hear the word swinging, which is very old,
Yes.
and it's something that still
I'm
happens.
just thinking of like people putting their house keys into a hat and like they pick it out and that's who they end up with.
That's right.
That might have been an episode of The OC from
Yeah,
20 years ago.
yeah. But you
You know.
see that, and again, it goes back to normalizing. I think we're seeing more folks out there who are curious about opening their relationship, especially if they've been a couple who's been together for many years. Monogamy is beautiful and it can work. It takes a lot of work, just as non-monogamy does.
Mhm.
But you are seeing people who are interested, who are
Mhm.
fascinated by it. And there's a lot of work that has to go into it. And both people have to want it, not just
Yeah.
one partner. Both people have to.
Right. This is
Yeah.
about open communication on each side. It is about sex and, how you operate with each other and others as well. But it at the same time, that concept of you need to have open communication is just like everything else in a relationship, it feels like.
It is. It's open communication. Both people have to want it. I think people can be very successful when they've been with each other for a while and they want that. But you do see solo non monogamous folks out there who they get into a relationship and they may tell someone, hey, I'm a non monogamous person. I'm not going to be monogamous with you.
Mm.
And it goes back to it's a value, I think. We're seeing this become more something of just a lifestyle. I think it can be an orientation, whether it's non-monogamy and open relationships and people are doing it for a casual thing, but then you also have full-on polyamory, which is having more than one intimate partner.
We're talking about thruples, but like,
Thruples.
operating, in
Yeah.
society, not just in the bedroom.
Operating in society, sharing a home with each other, sharing their finances, all of those things. So it could be a throuple or they share a partner with someone. There's also a term called a metamor, which is a partner's partner.
Mhm.
So I may be in a relationship with someone and they may have another partner, but I'm not close to that partner. I know who they are.
Mhm.
So you see that. So there's like constellations of people that can be together.
I just thought of
Yeah.
like transitive property for my 7th grade algebra. If this equals this and that equals the same thing, then those two equal. That's literally what I got there.
Yeah.
What
And
do you-
it can work. It can work. It takes a lot of work, but I'm in a non-monogamous marriage with my husband. I have been for, 7 years now. And it was not easy at first. But I feel like it made us closer together.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a very deep, unique understanding of each other that,
It is.
if you're both of the same mind,
Right.
that it
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
make you stronger moving
That's
forward.
right. And a lot of people can't do it. I mean, I've had people say, wow, I could never do that. I'm too jealous or I don't want to share
Right.
someone. And I feel like I could never be monogamous because I feel like I'm put in a box. I feel like I'm literally trapped. I'm like, this is too much. I mean, personally, and I don't mind sharing, I can't imagine having sex with the same person forever.
I know a lot of guys that feel exactly the way you do.
And I've had some gay men clap back at me for that. People will say, "Why do you think you can go out and have your cake and eat it too?" And I'm like, "I can. I can have vanilla. I can have chocolate. I can have red velvet. I can have whatever the hell I want.
I can slice it.
I can slice it. I can eat the whole damn thing and then go eat another one.
I can sit on it.
I could sit on a cake. That's a kink.
Is it? No.
Cake sitting.
Wait.
Yeah.
Can we, yeah. Hold on a second.
Splooshing. Playing with food.
You know what? I think this is a great opportunity to run through a bunch of kinks that we might not know about. Like, you know,
oh my goodness,
general.
there's so many.
I know.
Yeah.
You want to pick like your top 5 favorite ones to talk about or something? Because that's a new one for me.
Well, they have terms. I mean, it's hard to remember all these, but you know,
anything
balloon fetishes. Fetish is so a kink is a behavior.
Okay,
something out of the context of like vanilla sex,
and
so it could be being dominant and submissive. One partner is submissive, one's dominant. You may do some leather play, rope play, paddling, spanking, impact play. That's kink.
Okay.
Right.
Are kink and fetish the same thing?
They're different.
Okay.
So a fetish is being attracted like physically to like an object that's not the genitals. So someone can have a foot fetish, which is very common.
Right.
A fingernail fetish because of the polish on them. A beard fetish. Someone can have a lingerie fetish or a gym gear fetish. There's just different ones out there that people are really into. A balloon fetish. You know, I had a friend one time, and he won't mind me talking about this. He had a balloon fetish where he would fill his whole entire apartment living room with balloons and take a little pin and pop them. And every time he would hear the pop, he would get sexually aroused. And he liked the smell of a balloon, the rubber, and the way it felt, the helium, all of that. It turned him on. And it was because he really enjoyed birthday parties as a kid with these big red balloons.
So that has nothing to do with his own gender, his own sexuality. That's
it could be a complete
separate.
fetish, complete separate. Gender and sexuality are different.
Yep.
Sexuality is what we're into, orientation, what we're attracted to, gender and gender expression is how we present, right?
Correct.
And how we feel about ourselves. So it may have nothing to do with that. So, and that's why having a sex therapist is important. Someone to talk to. You go to a normal therapist who has never had training in that, and you tell them that you put on lingerie and you're a straight male, they will look at you like you've got 3 heads and you need to get out of my office. And I don't treat that usually.
That sounds very archaic for 2026.
It's I know.
Yeah.
I agree. But it's so true though. That's why we need training in this. And we're seeing, and I'm really happy to say that we're having more therapists who are getting trained now, who want to be trained, who want to expand, you know, their knowledge base of it. But yeah, you'll have that show up. And if you call yourself a kink affirming therapist, that man can come into my office and say, yeah, when I'm by myself, I like to put on lingerie. And I enjoy it. I like the way it feels. Okay, what else does it do for you? What does it do for your self-esteem? Or I like to put on sports gear and walk around. Whatever it is, you could put on a fireman outfit and it makes you feel empowered. You know, you could put on anything you want.
Now I'm just thinking about like any role playing I've seen in media as well. Because that's been super destigmatized in addition to, just because I'm sure couples have been performing some form of role play for
I've had couples do it when they want to spice up, like for couples who are especially like in a sex rut, like who they are in a sexless relationship or marriage. And there's something, you know, that Esther Perel talks about, which is the intimacy desire paradox, where eroticism stops in a relationship because you get so familiar and comfortable with each other. I call it the sweatpants phase. You get comfortable, you throw your sweatpants on, you stop having sex or less sex. And so you have to have ways to spice it up. So I've had couples go to a hotel, get out of their bedroom, go somewhere new,
change
it up. You see couples a lot that will have sex on vacations too. Like they haven't had sex.
What else are hotel rooms for?
With the showers, and they'll go like on a tropical vacation and they'll come back into session and say, we had sex. And I get so excited for them. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, you don't need me anymore. And they're like, no, we still need you.
It's almost like another honeymoon for them in that way.
It is. I love hearing it. I love helping people have sex.
That's amazing.
It makes me so happy because it's just as important as our mental health, our sexuality, and how we
1000%.
identify and what we love and what we do. We deserve the pleasure that we deserve in life.
I completely
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, by the way. I
Yeah.
think that's important for everyone to hear because we always see it as something else. I think for me and how I think about sex therapy now, I think it felt like maybe something a little more niche or extra and wasn't depicted as something that was as necessary, but it really is.
Right.
As human beings,
Yeah.
we should all at least be educated in this space, if not seeing someone, regularly for
Absolutely.
it.
100%. I mean, I think it's critical and people can reclaim things and they can get back into things.
Do people
Yeah.
come to you for dating advice? in
Yeah. I'm
particular
also
as
a
well?
dating coach.
Really? Okay, we never spoke about
That's
that.
another service I
Yeah.
do. Yeah. I'm also a dating coach and they come in and I do an assessment on their past relationships. What are they looking for? What are their values? What apps are they on? We look at the apps, we rewrite different things together.
So you've written people's bios with them and dating
Mhm.
app profiles,
Their
all
dating
that
app
stuff.
profiles, which ones are they on, which ones work for them.
What is the number one thing you see in like dating app no-nos? Like
They
across
write
the
too
board?
much.
They write too much. No one wants to read all
It's
that.
too much. No one has time for that. If I'm looking at my phone, I don't want to read a dissertation.
Neither
I
do
want to read something short, like
Yeah.
these little prompts that Hinge will give you
Mhm.
or something. I have to say, I think Hinge is probably one of the best for if you want a relationship.
My brother-in-law is an iOS engineer at Hinge, so he'll be happy to hear that.
Yeah, and I've had some clients who have found some great a great partner on Hinge. And they're really tired of the apps though too. So there's something else out there called a Date Me Doc. It's kind of like a resume for dating.
Is this something like people show each other on? I'm just curious how people show this.
They show up on the date, they hand each other their date
a
doc.
prospective date or whatever. Yeah.
No, but it's interesting. It's kind of like, because on an app, you've got a certain amount of characters.
Yes.
And so what you can do, you can write as much as you want. You can put more photos on the Date Me Doc and you can clip it on your social media handle.
I had no idea that there was even additional. Wow.
It's more of a Gen Z thing that we're
Mhm.
seeing, but there are folks who are also millennials and Gen X who get into it.
Do you think it's because they're jaded from the way their dating apps operate, or what the lack of payoff from?
I think it's the lack of payoff. I think people are also getting decision fatigue. They feel like there's something better. They start chatting with one person, but then another person hits them up, so they start doing that. The dating app is a casino. Is it a pocket-sized casino? And it wants you to keep hitting the lever and to see who you can match up with.
Can you talk more about that? Because there is science behind like that part of your brain that almost acts like a slot machine where you are waiting for a match.
You're waiting for a match. It's a dopamine hit to the brain because it releases that oxytocin. So you keep doing it. And so what I encourage people, I'm like, if you find a match, stay on that person for a while. Meet them out if they're open to that.
If they respond.
If you match with someone, because that's the thing that people get frustrated about. They match with someone and then the person's not, IMing them back. Or,
been there.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
So it can be really tough. And so if they can meet you, go out and meet them. Talk about what you want to talk about, but also leave a little mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Don't dump. I have people, when I tell people I'm a therapist on a date, oh God.
Do they start unloading all the
Oh gosh, I've heard their attachment style, their childhood trauma, how their ex did this.
They're like, oh my God, I have anxious attachment issues.
Their skincare routine. Hell, by the end of the night, I've heard someone's skincare routine more than their personality of how they get ready for bed at night or something. They tell me this stuff and then I have to joke about it on social media. And I tell them like, I'm going to make a reel about you.
I won't name you.
And I'm going to really over-exaggerate a lot. But it's true, though. That's why I try to tell people I'm in sales or something.
You kind of are in a way.
I am, but I'm honest, because, it's really fun, though, now when I go out. My husband and I went to a French restaurant the other night, and the waiter was like, You're that petty with a purpose guy that gets into fights with people all the time.
That's one of your series on Instagram that you've been
that I've been
posting.
doing. He's like,
Yes.
I love you. He's like, you're hilarious, you know? So that's kind of fun, you know? So I can't really go on a date and be like, oh, I'm in sales and I do this, you know, because they may Google me and then I pop up as, you know, someone like that. So, but yeah, I mean, I feel like it's great research material for me because I am in an open relationship, so I can go do it because I want to step into that world that my clients are in. And I think that's why people have commented and they said, I really like what you do as a therapist because you're out there living it and then you're talking about it and you're doing it through a comedic lens, which I haven't seen anyone do that. And it's helping me. And I've gained some clients from my social media. And I put that disclaimer that what you see, it's entertainment. Yeah, I've had a few clients reach out to me and want to start therapy because they've liked my style. And I'm like that in session with them. I can be comedic, but also very honest and empathetic, you know, which I think are the traits that therapists have to have. You know, I don't sugarcoat anything in therapy. I want to help them the best of my ability, but it is nice to be able to go out and experience those things and talk about it. Like, what is it like for me if I've gone out and I've hooked up with someone? You know, a Grindr nightmare, which I just reached number 20 on those. I've had 20 Grindr nightmares. I've been around the block.
Just 20? When you're talking about a Grindr nightmare, what is that defined as? It's a hookup that goes wrong.
It goes wrong. Like something has happened.
Okay.
Like, for an example, there was one guy, this finance bro I went on a date with. This guy lives in Tribeca. He's a finance bro. We went and had dinner. And he's like, do you want to come back to my place? And I'm like, yeah. And we go back to his place and he starts talking about how expensive all of his stuff is. And I'm just like, okay. And
so sexy.
He's got and then he had this like weightlifting bench in his room.
Oh my God.
And we started going at it and making out, and I was on my back and I got a Charlie horse in my leg and I kicked him and he went flying backwards and knocked over like one of his floor lamps and he broke it. And he told me what kind of lamp it was. What is that real like expensive brand? I forget what the name is. He's like, that's a blah, blah, blah lamp. And I was like, okay. And he's like, I think you should
leave. Oh my God.
Do you remember that episode of Sex and the City when he knocks the dolls off the bed and it breaks?
Yes. And it was like this queen, whatever, or princess something.
Was it Queen Mary, Queen of Scots?
Yes. Yeah. Oh my God.
So I knocked his lamp over and he was like, you need to leave. And I was like, no problem, sweetie. No problem.
Yeah.
Let me get in this Uber and go. And I got in the Uber and the Uber driver was like, are you all right? And I'm like, I'm so mad right now. This guy knocked over his lamp. He made me leave. And the Uber driver's like, how dare he? I'm like, I know. You know, it's like I live like I'm in Sex in the City. I have these moments where it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know, but these are some of these Grindr nightmares I've had. They've been very fascinating.
Oh my God. You're sitting on so much material.
So much material. So much. Like, I mean, I've done the walk of shame out of someone's apartment the next day, you know, just walking out like, oh my God.
Stride of pride.
Yeah. This old lady saw me walk out of this guy's apartment. My hair was all lopsided. I think I scared the hell out of her. I mean, just, you know, pulled a Samantha Jones one night and walked in the next morning. My husband was like, oh, it looks like you had a great night. And I said, yeah, I'm going to go take a shower now.
See you at breakfast in just a minute.
Breakfast, you know?
Yeah,
how many couples can talk to each other about that? It's kind of fun.
No, and you remind me of, you know, I think RuPaul is one of the, you know, the most famous people that has spoken so outwardly about and honestly about non-monogamy.
Yeah.
And he's been asked in several contexts about it. And during one of those, it was during COVID, like it was the Vanity Fair interviews where the camera was like every question it got closer and it was like a more intense question or whatever.
Yeah.
But someone asked him about off camera about his marriage and why he made it non-monogamous. And his answer was very simple. He said, because I don't want I don't want to keep the person I love more than anything in this life, you know, from doing what he wants to do. And it was that simple. Then he went on Call Her Daddy years later, like last year or something like that. And then he went a little more intense and said monogamy is bullshit. Which I was like, that is like, I think Alex Cooper was definitely gagged and like a little like caught off and didn't expect that. But I think in the point that he was making was that there are so many couples who maybe aren't meant to be monogamous, who were brought up in a society and raised to believe that that's the only way.
That's right.
And
that's true.
There's no other option. And that they're holding on to it for dear life because that's what you're supposed to do.
That's right. It's really hard when a couple comes in and one partner really wants to do it and the other one doesn't. Or they opened it and they've closed it and one partner did not want to close it back. It's really hard to close a relationship when you open it up.
Yeah.
Because you get a taste of things and you like it. It's like your favorite food. You want to keep having more of it. It's like that with non-monogamy. And it's not always about the sex. It could be just a really fun person that you're in a fun, intentional situationship with that you may date, casually date. You're sexual with them. You know, they know about your open relationship. I'm in something like that with a guy that I've been with for 2 years now. He's married. He's bisexual. She's bisexual. They have a son. And we hang out like once a month.
You're like the least boring person I've ever met in my entire life. By the way, you're also one of the most liberated people I think I've ever met as well. I have to say, and I really appreciate that about you because
thank you.
You are so open and honest, but the way you frame your experience personally and your patient's experience is extremely refreshing, just so you know.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. That means a lot. It is liberating. It's nice to be able to be yourself and not have to hide. And I think so many people, unfortunately, do that. And I did that. I never was a non-monogamous type of person going through relationships. I was always kind of very serious about relationships and something just kind of happened. I remember the night I looked at my husband, we were sitting at a French restaurant having wine and eating. And I said, I think I want to open this up and see what happens. And he looked at me and he said, wow, I'm glad you said something because I do too.
Wow.
And we did.
So you were pretty nervous before you brought it up.
Yeah.
You're like, this could go one of many.
It could go many, different ways. Now, what's interesting is that when I met my husband, I met him on Scruff and he was married at the time and they were open. And he was going to come over and hook up with me. And he was getting in the Uber and everything. And I blocked him. I ghosted him. Your face. Because I was like, I can't do this.
I was like, is that a kink? Oh my God.
I was monogamous at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't do this. And I blocked him. I felt terrible too. I really did. I did feel bad about it because he's adorable. And then 3 months later, I unblocked him. Maybe in 2 months. I unblocked him and I said, I think I made a mistake. And he goes, well, I'm getting a divorce. I said, great. Do you want to meet for a drink? And we did.
I just, it's all these Sex and the City scenes keep flowing in. The one with Samantha Jones where the guy calls her, he's like, I did it. I'm leaving my wife. And she's like, who is this?
Yeah. Yeah. And he goes, we're getting a divorce. And I met him at a bar called Trade in DC. And I was with a friend at the time who was straight. We went to a bar and had a couple drinks and some food. And we walk in and I had to go to the bathroom and I'm running to the bathroom and my husband said my name and I turned around and I've been with him like ever since. He was there with a friend that night and his friend got really drunk and was in the bathroom sick the entire time. And my buddy was like, Lee, you seem pretty happy over here. I think I'm going to leave.
By the way, that is allyship right there. If any straights are wondering how to be a good ally,
there you go.
Leave us alone when we want to be left alone.
Right. So he ended up leaving and I was with him the whole night. And we've been together ever since. We started living together 2 months after dating too. Because I had a studio in Northeast DC. He lived in DuPont and a studio. And we were going back and forth We take groceries to my place, groceries to his place. One day we went to Whole Foods and we're in his apartment and we put all of our groceries down and we were going to have to take them to my place for the week. I said, I am so tired of hauling this shit around. He goes, me too. I said, let's pick a place. So we picked his apartment because it was the gay neighborhood, you know? And so we did that. And I kind of left my studio in Northeast DC, which was in a nice little area across the street from Catholic University of America. And one day I said, I got to go check my mail. I've got to go to this apartment. And I was waiting for the lease to be up. It was an expensive studio. And I go to get the mail and there's just like dust everywhere, you know, and I go into the bathroom and I lift the toilet and there was a tree growing in the toilet from the algae, from the water, just like sitting there, a tree. I said, Jason, you've got to come in and look.
Handle this.
And it was like an algae, like a tree starting to grow in the toilet because it'd just been sitting there for 6 months. And I had stacks of mail.
A tree grows in DuPont.
A tree grew in the toilet. And, you know, finally the lease, and this girl comes up running to the apartment and she's like, someone lives here? I'm like, yes, I've come to get my mail. And she was like, okay, I'm just checking because I've never had footsteps up here. I live below you. And so we finally took the furniture from that place and put it in his DuPont apartment. We were there. And then finally I looked at him and I said, I really want to go back to New York. And this was in June of 2021. And he goes, well, I'm teleworking. You can work from anywhere. So we took the money that we had. We didn't even come up and look at the apartment. We walked in and looked at it and looked at her and said, we want to put a deposit down. And we did that right in June of 2021.
And the rest is history.
And the rest is history. And I am a full-time virtual practice because I don't need the office space. I had one on Park Avenue. I had an office on 57th and Park. And then I had one in McLean, Virginia. And I got rid of both because people weren't just coming in. I couldn't justify the cost. It was a tax write-off, but it was like, there's no one coming in.
Yeah.
Because it was convenient for people. And so I'm licensed in 6 states and I work from my home office.
Where are you licensed now? New York, DC?
New York, Connecticut, DC, Jersey, Maryland, and Virginia. The DMV area and the tri-state area. All along the East Coast, come see me. I'm thinking about Rhode Island. I need to help some of those ladies up there.
I want to shift gears and talk about, what else you're doing, as far as stand-up comedy and acting. Where did that start? Because I know people with, slashes and dashes in their career titles, but sex therapist, stand-up comedian, and actor is not one I hear often.
Great place to be in New York for that.
Oh,
right?
I'm sure. Yeah. You've pretty much got everything you need at your disposal.
I don't have to leave the city. No, I was an actor as a child and I did musical theater. I started singing and dancing when I was like 12.
Okay.
And I would put plays on in the neighborhood and my parents were like, I think he's going to do acting. And I got into it and I did musical theater all through high school. I got into Marymount Manhattan College on the Upper East Side. I got in their BA in theater program, came here in the late 90s, around 1997, 98 timeframe, and really just loved it. I loved being in New York. It was somewhat different than the way it is now, I've noticed, since I returned. I ended up dropping out of college, though, because I felt like, why do I need to get a theater degree to do acting? And I was trying to get in nightclubs and just trying to be seen. This is when I was like 19 and I had blonde hair and big blue eyes and I was running around all over Manhattan, getting into clubs, Twilo, Tunnel, Curfew, all those clubs. And I loved it. And then I was cast in a film in Jersey. It fell through. I was living with 2 of my greatest friends who I'm still close to. They came to my comedy show the other night in their Brooklyn apartment, 3 of us in a 1-bedroom. And I was like, I have to get my shit together. So I called my dad and my stepdad and they both drove up and picked me up. And I left New York and I always said to myself, and I told New York, and I looked at the trade towers. It's very emotional at the Brooklyn Promenade. And I looked at them and I said, I will be back one day. And I don't know what it will be, what I'll be doing, but I will be back in the city. And then a year later, that's when 9/11 happened. So it was really difficult when I saw that on TV. And, it was really hard to see that because I lived right across in Brooklyn Heights in the dorm.
Yeah.
And so having to see that, but I got 3 degrees and I said, I'm going to go help people. And I've been able to come back to New York and really get back into things that I love. When people ask me who I am, I don't say I'm a therapist. I say I'm an artist. I think I'm an artist. And in the middle of that circle is a therapist, an actor, and a writer, and a comedian. And so I've taken my clinical work and I've put it into comedy to disarm people and then give them a lesson about relationships through comedy. Because I feel like people need to laugh. I think people come into therapy and they're already nervous to be there. They're already kind of like tight. And I think humor is beautiful. And if I can make someone laugh, it helps me. It makes me love the work more than before because I was doing reels on Instagram and therapy reels. And my husband, he was like, "You're boring." He's like, "When are you?" Yeah, I'm like, "Oh, great." He's like, "When are you going to be yourself?" And I just said, "Are you ready for this?"
Interesting.
And he said, "Yeah, let's do it." And I just let it rip.
Oh, he opened up a can of worms.
I opened it up and it's just really taken off since then. There was a reel that where I was in a coffee shop and this lady got this attitude with me and I bit back at her and I said, "I'm going to make a skit about this." And I did. And it went viral, which was wild.
So you retold the story.
I retold the story and I sent it to my social media manager and he hadn't posted it yet. I'm like, "Do we have this in the queue?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll post it." And he did, and it went viral. I think it's like at 1.3 million views. Like it did so well. Like A-list celebrities liking it, and that was wild. Like Sarah Jessica Parker liked it. So if she hears this, I love you, SJ. Like she liked it. All these people, it was
We've
wild.
all been through that.
Yeah,
or someone irritated.
Someone that and it's like, wow, people like this. They think I'm a hot mess and I'm funny. I have all these stories in my head from 16 years of being a therapist and studying behavior and looking at it a certain way. And now I'm ready to take those stories and show my stories. And I think that's why if anyone said, "What would you do first? What is the first thing who you are?" And it's an actor, because I've been an actor since I was a child. So if anyone were to ask me, it's an actor. Therapy is a job and I love it. And I love the people. I love my clients. I love my mentors. I love the field, but I love being an artist and an actor. You have to be passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the work.
Mm-hmm.
I think just getting work as an actor is such a blessing when you can go do a show for however long. And Matthew Lillard, who I love, who's an actor, he was in Scream.
Scream, right.
He says, when you're not acting, you're not in a show or in a film or TV, be studying, take a class, just go take an acting class. I always tell people I'll be a student forever. I will be.
What do you think makes a good stand-up comedian versus yes, you can measure it by laughs, but there's clearly an art to it. Like
someone who's mentally ill. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, you're probably right.
No, I think someone who has lived life.
Yeah.
And who can make fun of it. You have to make fun of yourself. You have to laugh at yourself. I feel like Jesse Curson does that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like so many great comics do that. They laugh at themselves. I do the same thing. I get up there and I'm like, yeah, I was on Grindr because I don't have a life and I don't have anything else to do. I'm scrolling through Grindr like it's my Instagram. And I start chatting with this guy and I'm eating popcorn as I'm on Grindr, or I'm eating a candy bar, ice cream or something, just kind of laughing at myself. I don't take myself too seriously anymore. I did when I was young. And I feel like going back into acting, that's going to help, I think. But yeah, I think just being yourself, yourself who you would be. I think comedians are like that. I think what you see and talk to, they're like that on stage.
Yeah.
A lot of them. I'm like that, I'm just diving in. I've just been enjoying this ride so far. It's been wild what's happened on social media. And it's been the driving force becoming an influencer and a creator and a storyteller. So I'm really just enjoying it. And I love just the feedback that I'm getting from people and that I can make someone laugh. I did get feedback from someone in Iran who is queer. And he said, it's really hard over here and there's a war going on. And when I have dark days, I just pull up your page and I just laugh.
Wow.
And that shook me. I mean,
Yeah.
I got
That's real.
real.
It's very, very real.
I look at your page and I go through your stories and I just laugh and it brightens up my day. And I just thank you for what you do. And it just really touched me.
That's unbelievable.
That's the whole point of doing all this work. It's fun for me, but if I can just make people laugh and they can let their hair down and just enjoy things, it's great. And who doesn't like to talk about sex?
Thank you. Is the whole point here.
All right.
What would you like to toast to before we cheers and end here?
I would love to toast to humor.
Absolutely.
I think laughter is a form of medicine.
Yes. Is it the best medicine?
It is the best medicine. It is the best medicine. I really do believe it.
And it's over the counter.
And it's over the counter. Yes.
Cheers
to that.
Dr.
Yes.
Phillips,
yes.
your joy, please come back.
Absolutely. I would love
many
to come
times
back.
later. Thank you
Cheers,
guys.
everyone.